My father used to say that land keeps records better than people do. He wasn't talking about deeds or surveys, though he respected those deeply. He meant something quieter. The way soil remembers what's been planted in it. The way trees lean where storms once pushed them. The way a place carries the sum of every careful decision and every careless one, long after the people who made them are gone. Everett Merrick believed that if you worked land patiently, it would eventually tell the truth on your behalf. I didn't understand how literal that would become until the morning I pulled into our 5 acres and found silence where there should have been trees. It was early November, the kind of cold morning where frost clings to the needles and the air smells sharp and clean. I'd driven out before sunrise, planning to walk the rows, check soil moisture, mark which pines were ready for harvest later in the season. It was work I'd done 100 times before, work that felt almost ceremonial after my father's death. The farm was small compared to the tracts I managed professionally, but it mattered more. Every tree on that land had been planted by his hands or under his eye. I knew something was wrong before I even stopped the truck. The wind moved differently. Pine farms have a sound when they're intact. The needles catch air, soften it, turn movement into a low, continuous hush. That morning, the sound was broken, uneven. Too much open space. I stepped out of the cab and felt it in my chest before my eyes caught up. Rows were missing. Not thinned. Not selectively cut. Gone. 200 mature Christmas pines, trees that had taken 8 to 10 years to reach market size, had been cut clean and hauled away. The stumps were fresh, pale against the dark soil. Tire tracks ran straight through the field, deep enough to tell me the equipment had been heavy and professional. This wasn't vandalism. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a harvest. At the edge of the cleared. The 5 acres sat just outside the Pinewood HOA boundary, something Everett had made sure of when the development first went in years earlier. He'd watched the surveyors, asked questions, written everything down in his old leather-bound journal, the one he carried everywhere, its pages filled with measurements, sketches, notes about soil composition and drainage patterns, and, crucially, boundary confirmations. He'd known the HOA president then too. Vivian Strickland. Even before Pinewood finished building, she'd come knocking. Polite at first. Compliments about the trees. Casual questions about whether he'd ever consider selling the eastern parcels. Everett had refused her every time, always calm, always final. This land feeds itself, he told her once, standing right where those stumps now were. And it feeds the future. I'm not interested in turning it into something temporary. After that, the requests stopped. Or so it seemed. Standing there that morning, I didn't call anyone. I didn't take the sign down. I didn't touch the stumps. I walked the rows slowly, documenting everything the way my father had taught me: photos, measurements, angles, the direction of cuts, the tire patterns. As a forestry manager, I knew exactly what I was looking at. Commercial grade removal. No question. The market value alone came to about $18,000. But the violation wasn't financial. Not really. I went back to the house and pulled out my father's journal. The boundary notes were exactly as I remembered. County references. Survey dates. The original plat showing Pinewood's jurisdiction stopping cleanly at our fence line.
No easements.
No shared access.
No ambiguity.
That afternoon, I confirmed it with county records. The farm wasn't part of Pinewood. Never had been. Vivian Strickland had no authority there. None. Which meant this wasn't an HOA overreach. It was theft. My first instinct was to confront her. To drive straight to the Pinewood office, slam the journal on her desk, and demand an explanation she couldn't give. But my father's voice cut through that impulse as clearly as if he were standing beside me. Don't rush. Let the land speak. So I waited. And I watched. Over the next 2 weeks, I began to notice patterns. Small ones at first. HOA notices posted publicly that referenced compliance projects without detail. Homeowners quietly complaining about fines they didn't understand. A recurring name attached to the repairs they were forced to use: Summit Property Services. The treasurer, Curtis Landry, owned it. That alone wasn't illegal. Unethical, maybe, but not unheard of. What mattered was how often Summit appeared, and how expensive its work was compared to market rates. 2, sometimes 3 times higher. Always urgent. Always mandatory. Always approved without bids. I started pulling records. Most HOAs are sloppy with transparency. Pinewood was worse than most. But sloppiness leaves trails. Payments. Invoices. Meeting minutes that didn't quite match the votes they claimed to record. Then the HOA secretary reached out to me. She didn't say much at first. Just asked if I'd be willing to talk. When we met, she looked exhausted, the kind of tired that comes from carrying something you don't know how to put down. She slid a flash drive across the table. Vivian rewrites the minutes, she said quietly. Curtis approves the expenses. I keep copies of the originals. What was on that drive changed everything. Emails coordinating enforcement actions against specific homeowners. Discussions about pressure points. Explicit instructions to cite properties until owners realized it wasn't worth fighting. References to parcels outside the HOA boundary, including mine, as future opportunities. And then the development plans. Sunrise Meadows. A proposed expansion that depended on acquiring adjacent land cheaply. The strategy was laid out plainly: weaponize compliance costs, force sales, funnel the work through Summit, collect referral fees, then flip the land to developers. My father's farm was on the map. So were 3 others. By the time I brought everything to Hollis, the attorney I trusted, we had a case that went far beyond my stolen trees. Over $120,000 in misappropriated funds. Fabricated easements. Direct conspiracy between Vivian and Curtis. Breach of fiduciary duties so blatant it was almost careless. We filed the complaint with the state HOA Compliance Division. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Vivian didn't know that yet. She went on the offensive instead, posting statements online about outsiders attacking community leadership and dangerous individuals undermining neighborhood safety. My name was never mentioned, but everyone knew. Then the county paper ran the story. They'd gotten the documents. All of them. The money trail. The shell company. The tree theft. Homeowners read it and saw their own experiences reflected back at them with names attached. Anger replaced confusion. The annual HOA meeting was scheduled for the following month. I spent every night preparing. Not emotionally. Structurally. 5 gates of evidence, Hollis called it. Each one complete on its own. Each one impossible to dismiss without addressing the others. The theft. The fraud. The emails. The development scheme. The legal consequences already unfolding. By the time the meeting arrived, the room was packed beyond capacity. Vivian tried to delay. Tried to limit comments. Tried to adjourn early. She couldn't. One by one, the gates opened. Photos of the stumps. The journal. County records. Financial spreadsheets. Emails projected on the screen with timestamps and sender addresses intact. Faces in the crowd shifted from disbelief to recognition to fury. Curtis went pale. Vivian grew louder. The moment that ended it came quietly. A man in the back stood and identified himself as a state investigator, confirming the active criminal case. The vote that followed wasn't close. Vivian and Curtis were removed that night. The rest unraveled quickly after that. Guilty pleas. Prison sentences. Restitution orders. Summit dissolved. Sunrise Meadows stripped of its license. Money returned. I took the $18,000 from the tree settlement and spent every cent on restoration.